Since animation is a sequence of poses, creating good poses is a must-have skill. So let's study the different features that make a pose a good pose. In the previous video, we have seen the line of action, so clearly it's super important that your line of action are clearly defined on all your poses. It will help to read your poses, it will help to read the flow of your animation. So this is definitely the first thing you have to look after when building your pose. See here how the evolution of the line of action clearly communicates the flow of the motion and the animation. Second thing you have to look for is balance. Characters that look off balance will look weird even for a non-animator. You as an animator should know how to fix an off-balance pose or an off-balance character. For a static pose, a good technique is to draw a box around the main feature of the body, the one that weighs the more. Since the main goal of balance is to fight gravity, draw a straight vertical line in the middle of this box. This line should basically come across your center of gravity. If you don't have at least one contact point, or better, 2 or 3 contact points under this line, your character will look off balance. In the case of 3 contact points or more, the center of gravity just has to be bind to the triangle shape formed by those contact points. When you have only 2 points of contact with the ground, the center of gravity should come across the line drawn by those 2 contact points. Finally, when you have only 1 contact point with the ground, your center of gravity must be vertically aligned with this contact point. Note that your center of gravity is not always centered around your hips. You have to take in account the weight of your legs, of your arms, whenever you're trying to balance yourself by spreading your arms on the side, or whatever piece of equipment you are wearing. The next important thing whenever you are building a strong pose is silhouette. It's the main feature that's gonna be identifiable on your character pose, while the inner shapes of your character might be harder to notice or to identify, like the head of the character on this pose. Reading inner shapes will greatly depend on the quality of the character design and its contrast. A good practice is to have a dedicated window in Blender with a 3D view set to flat shading. If you're animating to camera, this should be the camera view. This way you will always have a sneak peek to the silhouette of your character. Now that we know how to display our silhouette, what makes a good silhouette? The most important thing is readability. The trident is currently a good example, showing the 3 teeth or 3 points of the trident make it clear on the silhouette view, while if I rotate it by a few degrees and show its profile, it doesn't read well anymore. We no longer identify a trident, but a simple spear. If we scrub through the animation, most of the poses are clear. On this one, the legs, the arms and the sword are clearly identifiable. The same will apply to this pose, where we can clearly see that the character is handling this weapon with 2 hands, or even this pose where to camera I slightly offset the position of the sword so that it appears in the back of the character. While I did the mistake on this specific pose to not have a clear silhouette, and I received this as a critique a lot of time. And that's a bummer because this is one of the strongest moments in the animation. This could have been improved by slightly rotating the whole character so that we can see more of a profile of the character, distinguishing both feet and a bit of the arms. Another principle that will help you build a solid silhouette is simplicity versus complexity. If we have a look to those different poses, we can clearly see that one side of the character has almost a straight line or a smooth curve, while the opposite side of the character is generally more detailed. This will improve the appeal of your poses. It will also improve their readability by giving them an orientation. or at least giving them contrast. We did talk a lot about contrast in our motion whenever we have a hold and a fast transition. That's the same regarding posing. Simplicity versus complexity brings contrast, and so it brings more interest into the pose. Another important point regarding silhouette is negative space. Negative spaces are the holes in the silhouette of the character. When you have overlapping features, like the arm crossing the body of the character in this case, make sure that you use those negative space to show the different features that will help the viewer to identify the different part of the character, like the thumb here or the silhouette of the biceps that allow us to clearly identify the hand or the arm of the character. You should also try to avoid tangent on your character or on your silhouette. On this specific pose, the leg gets tangent with the handle of the spear, and while it's not the end of the world, that could be improved if the character was moved a bit to one side or the other, so that we have no tangent between the leg and the spear, and we can clearly identify both features. Here is another pose that looks decent, but that would read better and would be more appealing if we were to separate a bit the silhouette of the legs and break the tangent in the arms, by showing the wrist or an elbow, for example. Avoid twinning in your poses. Twinning occurs whenever you have two features of the body, like the hands or the feet, that have exactly the same pose. While it can be something you voluntarily create to bring strength to a pose, or to bring control into a pose, like on the beginning of this jump, where everything about the body of our character is symmetrical, this is something you should avoid. For example, on this pose, both feet have a slight difference of pose. If I make them having the same pose, it won't look as appealing as the previous one. Twinning will bring a lot of stability, and so it will kind of break the momentum or the contrast in the pose. Twinning can also occur in timing. For example, here, my character is catching both swords at the same time. And this is a personal choice because I want to show that he is perfectly knowing what he's doing and mastering his art. So twinning both in timing and in the pose can show strength and stability. But in the case of this jump, for example, if I was to make both feet arrive at the same time, that will make the animation a bit less appealing and interesting. In the end, twinning brings a sense of perfection. And whenever you're achieving art, what you want to avoid is perfection. There is a lot of randomness in life, and this is what we want to represent. We want to make it alive, not to make something perfect, something CG. Another thing you should avoid are perpendicular lines. If I take this pose that is decent, and I now make the arm perpendicular to the spear, by straightening the elbow, making the spear vertical, that will look super stiff. And if I even exaggerate this by straightening the whole torso, the neck, the head, or even the other arm, that will look really bad. And my last advice, try not to hide any part of your character. There will be many times where it's gonna be impossible, but when you have the choice, like on this pose, make sure that we see a bit of the fingers, don't hide them into the silhouette. Or on this other pose, the pose looks great, but if I twist a little more the hand, I won't be seeing the thumb anymore. So the hand will be harder to identify. That's a little detail, but it will make the difference. So whenever you are posing your character, make sure you hit all the notes in this video. Watch for line of action that we have explained in the previous video. Watch for balance, make sure that your character is not falling, especially if he's standing. Be very aware of the importance of the silhouette. Watch for readability of the silhouette. Watch for simplicity versus complexity in your silhouette. Use negative space. avoid tangent, break twinning by angling a bit your character, break perpendicular lines, avoid hiding part of your character. In the next video, we will start building our first poses.